Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video where I will be helping you solve a leet code here today. My name is Jamil, and as per usual, we're going to be solving another easy leet code today. Today's problem is going to be called count asterisks, and as you can probably see, I've already solved it before outside of the camera, outside of the video filming time, so that I had a good idea of what the question entailed before trying to help you solve it. That way I try to reduce any of your confusions. But for the time being, let's take a look at the problem. It is a company's problem, so this will probably be something that you might encounter in an interview. So let's see. You are given a string s, denoted by the variable s, where two consecutive vertical bars, denoted by like the vertical bar above your enter key, are grouped into a pair. So in other words, the first and the second vertical bar make a pair, and the third and the fourth vertical bar make another pair, and so on and so forth. Return the number of asterisks in S, excluding the asterisk between each pair of vertical bars. And note that each vertical bar will belong to exactly one pair, so we won't have any odd numbers of vertical bars. So in here, if we take a look at our input of string s, we have leet code broken up into, or like split up with vertical bars and asterisks here. And the only ones that we care about are the ones in between two pairs. So if we take a look at the string here, this set of these two sets of vertical bars right here is a pair, and these two are a pair. So we only care about the asterisks in between those two pairs, and that's why we get an output of 2. Okay, so in the explanation, they'll tell you which characters fall outside of your pairs, and they have them underlined. So you have L, but it doesn't contain any asterisks. C asterisk, asterisk, and O are the other sets of characters that fall outside of your pairs, and those are the ones that we care about. So there are two important bits of information here that we need to extract from any string that is being passed. Where are our pairs and where are our asterisks? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use two different variables to keep track of that. Yeah, so first, it's best to just try and understand what is being passed to us. So we're being passed a string with alphanumeric characters, right? This is important to know because we are going to be passed characters that we aren't concerned about, right? The characters can be uppercase or lowercase, right? Again, like this is good information to know, but not important information. The important bits of information is the string will contain vertical bars and asterisks, and those indicate, and the vertical bars indicate which asterisk we need to count, right? And the reason why I say this is because if you take a look at this function right here, we are returning a number, so we must be returning a count of some sort. According to this question, it says here, return the number of asterisks in S, excluding the asterisks in between the number of pairs, right? So return the total number of asterisks that fall outside of vertical bar pairs. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we are going to need two variables to track whether we are within a pair and how many asterisks we have in our full string. So let's start off with a count, right? Simple enough. It's going to be a type number, and I'm going to start that at 0. And then I'm also going to say if we are in our pair, right? And this I'm going to use as a Boolean value, right? It's either going to be true or false. So when we start off our string, before we have started anything, before we have started iterating over a string, we can't be in a pair. So that's why I'm going to initialize it as false, and we'll only flip over to true when we have reached a vertical bar, which puts us in between the pair, right? So now we're going to need to iterate over our loop determine when you're in a pair, right? When you're outside of a pair, I guess. Outside of a pair of vertical bars, and count those asterisks. Okay? And how do we iterate over our loop? Well, I'm going to be using a for loop for this example, right? I'm going to say I, which is also a number, equal to 0. I is less than, if I can type, s.length, and I plus plus to iterate over our loop. Okay? If, and now, check if you are in a pair, because that's going to be the first step, right? If we are in a pair, we don't want to start counting. If you are in a pair, right, what will indicate if we are in a pair? If the element, or if the index we are currently on, if the element in the current index that we are currently on is a vertical bar, right, I want it to flip the opposite way, right? So if we start off with our string coming in and we are already at false, and then we hit a vertical bar, we need to go from false to true because now we have stepped into a pair, right? And as indicated by a question here, each bar will belong exactly to one pair. So when we hit the next bar, it will indicate the end of our pair, and we should swap out of our Boolean. Like we should go to our next value of Boolean, which ends up being false again. So I'm going to do a reassignment here, and I'm going to say pair is not pair. Okay. So I'll show you what that means. So it's going to run. But it's going to come back with an issue here because I don't actually want it to run. Also, the function is expecting me to return a number. Okay, I'm going to console log two things here. I'm going to console log s of I, and I'm going to console log pair because I want to show the index that we are currently on, like what character we are currently on, and then what ends up happening to pair. And for the sake of simplicity, I am going to put these in curly brackets in here. Actually, I don't know if I can put s of I in curly brackets just because of the way JavaScript works, but pair can fall in between brackets, and it will show you what it happens in a second. So now that we have determined whether we are in a pair or not, we also want to determine, and we want to take a look and see, we want to start counting, right? If we are in a pair, we need to start counting. If we are outside of a pair, it doesn't matter if an asterisk is there or not, because if we are outside of a pair, we care if there are asterisks or not, and if we are inside of a pair, we don't, because everything inside of a pair is not any of our concern. Okay, so how do we take care of that? So if s of I is equal to asterisk, right? Count plus equals 1. So we need to add, but if we take a look at this is going to count all of our asterisks, and it's not going to do what we are wanting it to do. It's going to count every asterisk that is in between a pair and every asterisk that is outside of a pair. So I'm going to add a second part to my statement here in my conditional and say if s of I is equal to asterisk and we are outside of a pair. And the way that I determined whether we are inside of a pair or not is if pair is false, we are outside of a pair. So if pair is equal to false, not a string, but false, then count plus equals to 1. Okay. And because of the question, we need to return the total count. So here is add to the total count if the asterisk falls outside of a pair. Simple enough, right? Let's run this and see what happens. I'm going to bring this down a little bit just so that you can see the full code. Okay. Let's take a look at our results. Perfect. All 3 test cases have been accepted. All right. I'm going to bring this back up now so that we can take a look and see what's happening. Look at my console log here. Okay. The first time this statement comes back as true, right? S of I is a pair, right? And I told in my conditional that when we come across a pair that we need to flip the Boolean value of pair by saying pair is not pair, right? Using a reassignment. And then take a look at that. The first time we hit it, we entered our pair. So pair is true. The next time we hit it, we left our pair. So pair is false, right? So when pair is false again, the next time we hit s of I, we ended up adding to our count, right? Let me just do this. Console.log. And we'll say s of I pair in between curly brackets and count in between curly brackets so that people can see what is happening. I'm just going to do this one more time. I'm going to run it one more time. So yeah. Okay. So the first time we hit a straight a vertical bar, it switches it over to true. We don't care about any of these asterisks in here, right? So as we're taking a look at example number 1, we hit the first vertical bar. There are 2 asterisks in here. You can tell already that my count is not counting because this comes back. This doesn't trigger. So s of I is equal an asterisk in here, but pair is not false. Pair is true. So this condition never triggers. And we keep iterating until we hit this condition where s of I is asterisk and pair is false, right? Asterisk and pair is false, and that's when we start counting, right? So for this example, answer is 2. For case number 2, output is 0, as we are expecting. And then case number 3, look at this, right? Pair is true, pair is false. We don't count for anything. Pair is false, and there's an asterisk, so we start our count. And we keep doing this. We keep flipping back and forth. And we just keep adding to our count as asterisks show up outside of pairs. So let's submit this without my console logs. I'm going to bring this back down so that it's a little bit clear. Okay. And we'll take a look at this and see. And the solution works. Fantastic. So I hope you learned something here today. I think the solution is fairly efficient in terms of runtime, in terms of memory. It could also, it is also great because, you know, we're only flipping over one variable, but storing in another variable, which happens to be the count. And we only iterate over the loop once, right? And that way we check for, you know, the constraints that the question has given us, and then we return the answer that the question is asking of us. So if you learned something here today, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate that. That would mean a lot to me. Leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know if there was anything that was confusing or anything that you learned from here today, or just any opportunities for me to make better videos or any suggestions. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for watching. My name is Jamil, and I'll see you next video. Have a good one.